So a lot of people have this question, and it's very ambiguous and very frustrating for a lot of people, which is, I think I might be codependent, but I actually think I might be a narcissist. And there's a dissonance between that, okay? For people. Not for me. I see it so clearly in the sense that, one, I want to say I identify as a mirror empath, which means that I literally have an incapability, usually, of not reflecting to somebody what they actually are seeing. So we have to understand how powerful the power of projection is. And you might actually be, if you're questioning this, a mirror empath. Because if somebody is projecting onto you something, you will become the reflection of that thing. And that is why holding our vision of Christ consciousness is so important, because what we see, we will create. And narcissists and codependents create each other. So it's not a soul-derived reality, narcissism and codependency. It is a mental framework that we were downloaded from a very young age, that this is the way that you relate to people. So if you are a codependent, you're also one light switch away from being a narcissist, depending on how the system switches, because that's the way your system is wired. So we can unwire that mental system because it's only a mental framework. But so say that we have, as a culture, this classic archetype of this codependent, this classic archetype of a narcissist, and they say that which would never really be the reality, but say that the only parts of them that are real are their narcissism and codependency. And we allude to that being the whole of them, who they actually are. And we take that archetype and then we have children, okay? And those children are raised in that reality with a codependent narcissist. It doesn't even have to be, I'll stick to this. So, and then say they have this child who is formulating, going, oh, wow, like I am actually empathic and I'm picking up on this mental patterning, which is, this is the way they relate to each other. There's my codependent mom, there's my narcissist dad, and this is what they do. And this is what I know I have to do with my mom and what I know I have to do with my dad in order to stay safe, right? And then they have a child, and that child is you. So that watered down version of both people exists only because it exists in a mental framework, in a patterning, which I believe absolutely can be undone if we are willing to basically bring in if we identify as a codependent, we have to be able to bring in our inner narcissist and say, okay, in what way is it true that actually I am desiring to overlay my own self-concept instead of my self-image, in the sense that, like, we have a self-concept, which is I am a narcissist, or I am a codependent, or they are a narcissist. That's our self-concept of them, rather than actually see the image of them in the wholeness and likeness of God and ourselves as that. So when I am projecting, so I have two, ironically, both of them were men, asking me, they said, I think I might actually be the narcissist. So what's going on here? Because my partner thinks that I'm the narcissist. I think my partner's the narcissist. And then, the question at hand is, like, who's right? I'm very confused about this. So it has to be true that we are both. In order to basically fulfill the mental patterning, so there's no voids in it on either side, is to bring it center, right? Is to bring boundaries, healthy boundaries, to hold the tension and the dissonance of being a result of the perpetrator and the victim at the same time, and then saving thyself by the recognition that holding those two in a perfect balance is actually our healing. So if you strongly identify with I am a codependent, the work then would be to bring in, basically, ourselves closer to our narcissist. And that's not because we want to be a narcissist, right? Like somebody once said, oh, you're trying to make true empaths narcissists. No, I'm trying to make true empaths who think that they're absolutely insane come closer to their wholeness by accepting a concept, because you've already accepted concepts, about your self-image, okay? So if you can go, I can't relate to being a narcissist, I hate them, they're terrible, I see them everywhere, right? And there's judgment out there in your mirror. You're judging the mirror instead of bringing it in. The second that you bring it in and go, okay, in what ways could I be perceived as narcissistic? And I want to also point out that anybody who's in an extensive amount of pain is going to appear narcissistic, because it's very hard to look outside of our own little mental patterning when we're in pain. We only operate on the pathways that we're used to when we're in pain, because we don't actually have the expansive, open mind. Our focus is on pain instead of on expansion. So I don't know if you are a narcissist, okay? You know, I love the question. But what I do know for me, for my own healing, is that when I really got how codependent I was, and when I really looked at, because I've always been a mirror, I was operating in somebody else's mirror. I was operating in the mirror that I grew up in, and I extended that to my entire life. And it was when I actually brought in this, okay, in what ways actually is codependency narcissistic? And in my opinion, that is in the way that we give because we have to appeal to our self-concept. And in the giving, we project weakness onto the people that we give to. So it's very easy for a codependent person to raise an addict. Because think of this. So if you are, and it's also easy, let's look at it this way. So say you are the child of the absolute codependent, absolute narcissist. You have that mental patterning. This is how life operates. This is how the relationships I am in are supposed to operate, because I don't know any other way. And you're raising a child. It's very likely you're going to appear narcissistic to the child, and at the same time simultaneously appear, which would be rejective, and at the same time simultaneously be like, you need me and you're weak for needing me, right? This is what the codependent does, is, well, you are helpless, and because of that I have to overcompensate for your helplessness and give to you, and then I'm going to be mad at you because you're helpless, and then I'm actually victim to my own service because I could have been serving myself, but the whole time I was focused on you, and now you're bad. That's going to create an addict, because we're going to be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, what? I don't know that I need you. I don't even have room to do this for myself, but like, I feel now trapped inside of this idea that I need you, and then I'm going to rebel against you, which is going to appear very narcissistic, right? So I'm saying this to say I don't believe that a majority of the people that you think or I think are narcissistic or codependent are actually either or. I believe that we are all, as an expressive being of Christ consciousness, in a squeezed-in perspective that has the capacity to be both of those things simultaneously. And it is the bridging of that gap that becomes the codependent's healing. It's the non-resistance of accepting the reality that we have been these ways, because we weren't clear about what we wanted, what we needed. We thought that we knew how things operated, but we didn't really know how to be with the things the way that they operated, so we would escape those things. Across the board, the audacity of a narcissist is the thing that an absolute codependent envies, resists, and hates. And it is in that dissonance of knowing, okay, I hate that kind of audacity, that we have to bring to the center and go, what would I look like if I was that audacious? What would my life look like if I had the boundaries? So here's the thing. Yesterday I was trying to get my partner to hurry up so we can meet somebody when I said that I would meet them, and he said I won't be rushed. My family used to make me do that. I'm not interested in doing that. So if his family made him rush for the sake of somebody else, what happened in his mirror is that he rebelled against the mirror. He was like, no way, I'm not going to live my life slaving for other people on their time, their, whatever. What do you think his family thinks of him? Do you think they think he's codependent or narcissistic? This is an example. And then what do you think actually is created in that dance? It's like, oh, he's narcissistic, and then they want him to be codependent and just honor everybody else's time instead of his own, which doesn't serve anybody because he's never full. So my point in saying that small example is that's a way, that's like part of the mental patterning that overlays the soul, is this dance between the mental dissonance between you should serve me, you should serve other people, but you have to be full of yourself in order to do it, and I'm mad at you for being full of yourself because that means that you're basically narcissistic. So I'm not saying there aren't genuine archetypal narcissists out there, but what I'm saying is that if you are on my particular channel and you are questioning whether you are the narcissist, and your partner is saying that you're the narcissist, I would look into the possibility of, if one, you're a mirror empath, but two, just understand that narcissism and codependency are the flip side of the same coin. It is a lock and key relationship, and it changes. So if a peptide enters a cell, it changes the cell goes nuts, right? But what's true is that the cell also makes its way to the peptide. So a peptide in this case we could call a narcissist. It's going to make its way to the cell, and we'll call ourselves a cell, and that it's going to shake something up in us. But what's true is that the cell also finds its way to the peptide. So they're in this dance in unison, which ironically feels like chaos to the cell, but it really is a dance in unison. So it's when we stop going for the dance by seeing it for what it is. It's like, okay, now I can step back and actually see the mental patternings that are going on, and recognizing they're just mental patternings. Like, you don't have to be stuck there. And it's going to feel very uncomfortable to get unstuck, because it actually feels safe to be in that little contracted space of like, this is how the world is. It feels safe to be backed into your own corner, because not a lot, you have your own back, and not a lot can get out here, right? Can't get out here. So the point is that in that patterning, if we can drop the patterning by understanding that yes, we are both, and bridging the gap with healthy boundaries of what that actually means, and understanding in what ways we can actually serve from a sense of fullness, instead of from this like, I am absolutely codependent and I have to like sacrifice. No, I don't believe in sacrifice. I believe in investment. So if you can think of, and that's, a lot of people could say, oh, that's something that a narcissist would say. They invest in things or whatever. They're not sacrificing themselves. It's for the benefit of them. Well, yes, because we can't actually get to a whole person as a codependent until we are absolutely full of ourselves. And the first step to doing that, and it's self-full, not selfish, the first step to doing that is to bridge the gap and to understand that we are both. And that our sense of fullness is going to come in and fill in all of the gaps of that mental patterning, so we can just drop it. Once we can see it for what it is, once it becomes the whole picture, we can go, oh, I'm dropping that. I'm dropping that picture. I'm dropping that self-concept. So I hope that was helpful, because I got a lot of emails about that this week. So that's my take on it. It's not the right way, but that has been, for me personally, a way to heal the mental tragedy of not knowing what you are, where you are, why you are, or who you are, but only using the mirror to reflect that to you. If you have a dirty mirror, clean up the mirror, right? But you have to recognize that the mirror is reflecting to you also that which you see, not that which you are. So what you see in the mirror is also up to you. So if you are asking, is my partner a narcissist? Do you want to believe that? Do you want to see that? If you want to see that and believe that, okay, that's a mental framework that you can use to whatever, heal, isolate, whatever it is for you. But if you don't want to see that, which is it's a radically different kind of choice, to see somebody in their actual image instead of their self-concept or your self-concept of them, then I would say they're probably not a narcissist, right? But in theory, we're all watered down versions of the opposite sides of both of those spectrums, and we can drop that whole system, but we have to see the system for what it is. Bye, guys.